Hi everybody. Just watched a video by Jörg Sprav, the guy that does the Slingshot channel on YouTube, and he has been for some time campaigning for like a YouTube trade union for YouTubers to use, because basically he was making a sort of, not a salary, but he has a job, and he was making essentially, I guess, another half salary off of what he was doing on YouTube. And then because of the hit piece in, I believe it was The Guardian, it might not have been, I don't really care, where they were saying that he was training people to be violent or whatever, because he does crossbows and slingshots and armor piercing weapons and stuff like that for fun. And they did this, and so what happened was, this was just before the adpocalypse on YouTube. So there was the adpocalypse, and then there's the situation we have now where it's less about advertising, more about censorship. Now, I'm actually, surprisingly enough, really won over by their campaign, because the thing is, we all joke about people trying to make money out of YouTube and how silly it is, right? And to an extent, I actually agree with that. But in that sense, it is no more silly than trying to make money out of TV or radio, which people have done legitimately for years. And I don't think that just because you're on the internet and more people can do it, you should be stopped. And we know that, back in the day, like, the only reason people like fucking Matt Jarbo and what's his name, Angry Joe, are famous, it's not because they're any good at what they do, it's because they were in early, right? And then they got the numbers. Later on, when more people were doing it, it democratized, I guess, the number of people who could make a success. And it's not a zero-sum game, because some people will just not watch certain things and will watch other things, so you've got a new audience member there. But anyway, so the thing is, I'm in two minds on this, but I do see it as a win-win, because the thing is, and I'll go into exactly why I think these people have a case as a trade union in a second, but if they manage to make this a fair platform, then YouTube has to, and Google by extension, has to play by the same rules as everyone else as a corporation, right? So the ads can't be, selectively demonetized and all that shit. The other thing is, it does mean that people can actually, make a living out of, essentially, I would just say, like, it's YouTube, but essentially TV, right? They can YouTube is made for people with that sort of Bob Ross mentality of like, oh well, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna put an easel up and do some painting on it, and people can watch, and if they like it, then great. Like, it's that. And then equally, you get people on it who are making like, mini action movies. You've got people testing their computer animation skills, all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty amazing, right? And these people, it's not like they're asking for a handout. These people were making money and now aren't, because what's happened is CNN and the BBC are like, no, we want to be TV, so now they're moving into the YouTube sphere, and everything's being funneled towards them. I mean, just look at your search results. It's not like there's a bible of search results anymore. Like, I remember back in, like, say 2008, you could just type in any string of words into YouTube and there would be a relevant video, and it would be in order of relevance. But now it isn't in order of relevance, it's in order of popularity. And that's done, in my opinion, massive damage to the site. It's also done massive damage to my use of the site. I don't use it nearly as much as I did. The reason I'm not like an automatic fan of trade unions, and I certainly don't think that government power is anything to be appreciative of. But the thing is that Google is a corporation operating in Europe and Britain and all the rest of it, and they are. It's not like we're taking a loan to this private company and then using the state to abuse them. It's like they've been using the machinery of the state for years anyway, with impunity, and getting all the benefits and none of the setbacks, which is kind of what a corporation is, to be honest. And so, yeah, the problem you guys are probably thinking of, and that has occurred to me as I speak, and before, while I was watching the video, is, well, actually, some of us don't want YouTube to be about money. Some of us don't want advertisements. Some of us fucking hate the advertisement system, and people like me think that YouTube might actually accidentally advertise themselves out of existence. But here's the reason it's win-win, right? Because what Google could do is, in the face of all this stuff, and I'll tell you the 3-point little action plan that they're planning to do, which is actually pretty fucking solid. What YouTube are planning to do, what YouTube could do is they could say, okay, fine, no money for anybody. We're taking the adverts away. And that would be just like the best thing ever, right? Because the thing is that the YouTubers who are really, really good, who want to make money out of it, can still get sponsors. Look at the podcast industry. They don't have built-in adverts into the podcast app or whatever that help them make money. They have to get their own advertisers. And they have to read the advertisements out on the podcast. And so, that, I would much rather YouTube is like that, because if for no other reason, then I can just fucking skip through the video till the ads finish. Like with all these people advertising audibly and everything like that, you just skip past it when it's annoying. And I think that's unlikely to happen, but it'd be better. But what then might end up happening is, if YouTube does comply with this trade union, what might actually end up happening is YouTube will essentially become the same as TV over time. And it will become the total normie space, and people a bit edgier might actually feel that they're not welcome there. Because the thing is that just now, while the union doesn't have any power, they're like, oh no, we're fighting for everyone. But what will eventually happen is, as has happened in every industry ever over time, the union and the corporation will work together to gang up on the little guy. So that your bit shoots and stuff may still actually become the only option. But yeah, their 3-point plan. First, well, I'll not say it in the correct order, but one point is to just keep pressure on YouTube. They call it, they're just saying shitstorm it, and that's quite funny. I was like, yeah, I agree with that. But their legal action plan is of 2 points, and in my opinion, from what I understand, and I'm no lawyer, but they have an open and shut case with this, right? They're going to take Google to court over data protection and false self-employment. Now, data protection, Google are already in trouble for. I mean, you've seen the hearings in Washington, but in Britain and in Europe, the data protection laws are actually stricter. And one of the things is, I don't know how it works in Germany, where this union is being mainly boosted, but in Britain, where they're really strict, there's something called a freedom of information request, which is basically, so the data protection thing is, you are owed by law a copy of any data a company holds on you, because the data itself is your property, because you are, as I've said in previous video, that makes you the commodity if you're not in charge of your own data, and the data is your property. So essentially that data has been stolen if you can't get access to it. So I quite like, it's one of the few laws I quite like. And so what then happens is, you are entitled to a copy of everything that, not trade secrets or anything like that, but for example, if my video, which will go up, it'll go through thousands of bots, and it will get scrubbed, and it will get checked out for various things, and then it'll be chucked down the bottom of everybody's list so that nobody can see it. And what they are saying is that I am owed legally, and I think they're correct, I am legally owed a copy of what algorithms and criteria are based on my data. And so this is what they're taking Google to court over this, because of the fact, they're threatening to take Google to court. They want to get a seat at the table. But this is, the thing I think is, if Google have broken the law in this way, which they have, fuck the court case, let's just take them to court anyway. But obviously that's incredibly expensive, and that's why they're wanting to negotiate first. The other thing is, and I agree with this too, less so, because I think it's a very murky area, but they're saying there's a thing called false self-employment. We've had a couple of furores in the UK about this, regarding some of these event workers and 0 hours contracts and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, the 0 hours contracts got taken way out of hand, but the gig economy, basically what was happening was people were being given contracts to work for a company, but they weren't guaranteed any hours, and that worked for some people, and then the government and labour and stuff started exploiting that, because there's lots of people that kind of job works for, but then there are people who are genuinely get shafted by that because they have a proper job and they're not guaranteed any hours, which is extremely horrible. Now, false self-employment is similar to that. I'm not quite sure how that works in the UK. versus Europe, but I know roughly how it works over here. It's not called that over here, it's called something else, but we'll just use false self-employment just now. False self-employment is like where you are registered as self-employed, so you're a YouTuber and you work for yourself, and you are creating the product yourself, the video, and you are just marketing that to YouTube, right? And then YouTube distributes it. Self-employment, right? Same as the comic book industry. But false self-employment is where the dynamic is essentially one of an employer and an employee. But so on paper you're self-employed, but if you actually look at how the job works and all the things you have to do for the company, and the fact that there is only one company, it then becomes a situation of you're not actually self-employed. Like, you can say you're self-employed all you like, but the actual dynamic is one of a corporation employing a person. And then that means you're both not self-employed, which is a problem because you've been told you are and you're not, and it's also a problem for the company because they are supposed to be giving you certain rights and stuff because you're an employee and they're not. And so this is a murkier area for me because I still think that, like, look, it's not YouTube's job to provide anybody with a living, but if they are saying they're doing one thing and they're doing another thing, then that's just fucking wrong, and they need to be held to account for it, and they maybe don't need to be taken to court, but I would certainly like to see what the truth of the situation is, if that makes sense. So, like, I don't really care which way that one goes. I would really just be curious as to how the feck that one works, and like to see everybody being open. But I really like the data protection thing, because the thing is, they have to be transparent with how they use your data and all that. Now, I hope people don't get carried away with this, because like I said, the advertising is an absolute pox on this website. It's a pox, and I can't stand it, and most people can't stand it. So what I'm kind of hoping happens is that YouTube realises that they have to actually completely get rid of the advertising system and replace it with a new one. I've said for years they should just get a banner that runs across the top of the site, you know, like, so instead of interrupting your video with an advert, they should just, like on the homepage, how they've got the continuous banner, just put all the adverts on that and have them scrolling across like on a news sidebar. But anyway, I've rambled for long enough. I think you guys should check this video out. It's in the description. Tell me what you think of it. I'm under no romantic illusions as to what trade unions are and what this could turn into, but as I've said to you already, I really, really like the fact that we might get to have a peek into how this awful company works, and the fact that we might be able to get some control back over our personal data. I don't hold out much hope. This is the EU we're talking about, and as of now, you know, Britain is still in the EU, so the EU still runs the country. I don't care what anybody says. That is literally the case. We don't make our own laws. European Union makes our laws. And so, you know, the EU is quite happy to let corporations do whatever the hell they like when it pleases them, and so nothing might happen. However, I want this to work because I want something to change and I want something to be different, and I would quite like to, just out of curiosity, see how everything ends up. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Share this around if you can be bothered, and please go and check out the other video. Thanks for your time and have a good one.